Hope lights her fadeless fires, faith shines on with steadfast ray. Love, the flame that courage re-inspires, as morning stars lead on the way. Words of Henry Wordsworth Longfellow. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to Cross Street Chapel's Sunday service. I'm grateful for your presence here, for those who are watching online, as well as those who made the journey in. And I hope that whatever it is you come seeking in this space, be it a place for sorrow and the shedding of tears, a place for perhaps some joy and laughter. Maybe you've come seeking a few words of wisdom, or just a chance to rest with the divine. Whatever it is that you seek in this space, I hope it will be found, as well as a warm community. So we lit our chalice, a great sort of Unitarian tradition and ritual that's marked by many places, many Unitarian places around the world on Sundays and through the week. We turn as well to a call to worship with these words from Jess Reynolds. Here you are, here in this holy space, standing on this ground that is holy, because you are here. Here you are, in flesh, bone, filling up this body that belongs to you alone. Your pumping heart is a wonder because it keeps you alive. Your loving heart is a blessing because it keeps all of us alive. The Spirit of love has a home in you. May we all see that love in you and let our hearts become mirrors for the compassion at your core. The Spirit of justice has a home in you. May we light our wicks from one another until we are all aflame, until we burn out every prejudice we carry in these bones. Here you are, holy as you are. Blessed be. Amen. And please join with me in singing our first hymn in the Green Book, number 26, Spirit Divine, Attend Our Prayer, hymn number 26. Spirit divine, and make our hearts thy peace with all thy gracious power. A Holy Spirit, oh, cause the mind to waiting for, that walk the truth to know, reveal the narrow path of life, the way of truth teach. Lord, the truth on hearts that high, descended this still hour, till every barren place shall know, with joy like its power. Love as the wind, sweet clean away, what deep within us, and such a fresh in all our souls, with living energy. Let us turn now to a time of prayer, which will be concluded with our covenant, which you'll find in your order of worship, and will appear on the screen for those watching online. Get all the coughs out. However, we have prayed this past week, whether in the privacy of our homes, whether in communion with friends, or alongside colleagues as we drive to create a better world. Indeed, all of that is prayer. Let our prayers be with us today. Wherever our journeys have taken us, into the heart of a city, or along a silent road, or across a moorland whose tracks dissolve into the past, let these travels be with us today. Whoever we have met along the way, as an ally or a confidant, or a disagreeable person by our standards, or a stranger. Let the people in our lives be with us today. May the experience of the week dissolve into our hearts, not disappearing, not without influence, but as guides as we share in our community here and now. Amen. So let us turn now to our covenant. We gather here in sacred fellowship to witness the fullness of our lives and all life, to hold and be held, tell stories and listen, to be renewed and renew the world. We speak with care and patience. We act with gentleness and compassion. We forgive each other and ourselves. In faith that we build beloved community, we renew our covenant today. Our first reading for today is from Catherine Spink's work, A Chain of Love. Catherine Spink was a biographer of Mother Teresa and has written on a number of sort of compassionate and spiritual books. So this is from A Chain of Love. I don't know what has caused me to read so many articles lately on the subject of compassion, but I think we, as co-workers, are faced with compassion when we are with the poor and the lonely and the dying. Compassion asks us to go where it hurts, to enter into places of pain, to share in brokenness, fear, confusion, and anguish. Compassion challenges us to cry out with those in misery, to mourn with those who are lonely, to weep with those in tears. Compassion requires us to be weak with the weak, vulnerable with the vulnerable, and powerless with the powerless. Compassion means full immersion in the conditions of being human. When we look at compassion in this way, it becomes clear that something more is involved than just a general kindness. Amen. So you now have a chance to share your joys and your sorrows, your trials and your triumphs, and know that you will be held here, that you can speak, and you will be encountered with that compassion that we've just heard about. If you wish to share these publicly, you can light a candle and come to the microphone to speak, so those online and using the loop system will be able to hear. If you are online, you can write into the chat box, and I will read out your message. And you can light a candle in silence. That is welcomed. And of course, if you wish to remain seated, holding your life in your heart, know that your presence here is enough. And I'd like to begin with 3 candles in one. The first is for Carol, who is Laura's sister, Catherine's aunt. It's a candle for her cousin's 15-year-old son, Lucien, who has been diagnosed with leukemia. So a candle for them, and a candle for all those who've been affected by the shooting in Buffalo that was yesterday. And a candle for Thomas and Catherine and myself. We're about to make a decision on his schooling. So hopefully, yeah. What next step comes from that, we're not sure, but that is a big step for us. So do hold us in your thoughts and prayers as well. But those 3 candles, and I will light one now.
And I am celebrating dearly Ukraine's winning the Eurovision Song Contest yesterday.
Just occasionally, when I'm about to switch off my PC in the evening, I Google somebody that I might have known many years ago and haven't thought much about ever since. And I was very taken aback to discover that somebody who'd been a close friend many years ago had actually died in the year 2000. And it's funny that one feels that they ought to have gone on, continued life just as I had, but for whatever reason they couldn't. And it does make one realize that one should try and keep one's friendships, I don't like to say alive, but in mind wherever possible, so that in some way or another, in some strange way, one can support them by thinking of them. It's a bit incoherent, I know, but it is quite a shock sometimes.
I've got a candle of joy for once. A month ago, me and my friends were given an eviction notice for 2 months because landlord wants to sell in a housing boom. But thankfully, we've managed to find a house that we should be moving into this week, which is in budget and has a dishwasher. So after a month of stress, it feels like a big relief. So very thankful for that.
A candle from Alan. A candle for my consultants meeting on Monday that a treatment may be available. And for all those joys and sorrows here spoken, and those that remain silently in our hearts. Let us turn now to our second hymn in the Purple Book, number 6, Elizabeth Alexander's As We Sing of Hope and Joy Today, hymn number 6. As we sing of hope and joy today, some hope only anguish and despair. How can we lift our voices in despair while some have pain and misery to spare? In what calling world would we must sing the ordinary song. Heals from a noisy gong will never empty. Passion must be gone. Let this song our voices contain. Laughter overwhelmed and childless too. Roofs of red, extreme rain, its harmony of peaceful sentence view. Singing of joy while remembering each day. Sing of hope while knowing them be. So shall we sing together and proclaim, may every offering bear us in. Thank you. Well done. It's not an easy one, and I thought you sounded splendid. Our second reading today comes from the great Nobel laureate Rabindranath Tagore. It's entitled Sadhana. Essentially, one is not a slave either of themselves or of the world, but they are a lover. Their freedom and fulfillment is in love, which is another name for perfect comprehension. By this power of comprehension, this permeation of their being, they are united with the all-pervading Spirit, who is also the breath of their soul. Where one tries to raise themselves to eminency by pushing and jostling all others, to achieve a distinction by which they pride themselves to be more than everybody else, there they are alienated from that Spirit. A few words from Sadhana by Rabindranath Tagore. And so we return to a time of prayer, this time with the words of Stephanie Ramage from King Edward Street Unitarian Chapel in Macclesfield. I try to pray. I want to pray. I need to pray. For support, for help, for reassurance. But the words won't come. I can't find suitable words. I know in my heart what I am feeling, and maybe those feelings are a prayer in themselves. But that is not enough for me. Until I have expressed what is worrying me, spoken the words out loud, said what is in my heart, given voice to anxieties which haunt me, which fill me with fear, which surround me like a cloak which is too warm on a summer day or too thin in an icy wind. Until I can find these words, I remain ill at ease. My inability to pray my prayer just adds to my worry. I try to empty my mind. I try to see in my mind's eye a pale blue cloudless sky, a silent landscape, untouched by noise or movement. And then my prayer is simple. Help me to pray. Put the words in my mouth. Help me to say what is in my heart. Take away my fear of saying it. Just help me to say. Just help me to pray. And so we now enter into a period of silence for reflection, meditation, contemplation, and personal prayer. We turn now to our next hymn, again in the Purple Book. Anna Briggs's Now We Sing to Praise Love's Blessing, hymn number 110. Now we sing to praise love's blessing all through our lives. That the joy surprise confessing all through our lives. Of that train of new creation, love that dares through incarnation, love that offers peace to nation. Oh, how we give thankful singing all through our days. How our world keeps on healing all of its ways. Fearful hearts suspect stranger, heartless nations are for danger. Not in heart, the powerful changer, all through our days. Love the grace that makes us caring all through our lives. Urges us love and sharing all through our lives. Speaks in us of passion David, strikes in us and tosses champion. Lives in us through peace proclaiming all through our lives. Love's the cloud that walks at winning all through the world. Men white bodies through the beginning all through the world. And the sparkles that found us in the chaos all around us. Love's wide arms with hope surround us all through the world. And God's faithful light nourish all through our lives. Know and love each other, nourish all through our lives. Through the world's demands are pressing, what like fleeting slams to gassy. Still we sing to praise God's blessing all our lives. Thank you. I forgot to warn you that the first verse is written within the music and then all the subsequent ones, rather than how it appears in nearly every other hymn in that book, which is, anyway. Again, well done, everyone. You're only human. These words resounded in my ear a while ago during a personal crisis. Poor decisions and guilt and shame and regret. You're only human. Well, the perfectionist in me rails against this claim. Oh, I should be better than that. But the core of my soul recognizes this is exactly what I need to hear. Only human. And yet so much more than what I considered myself at that point. Only human. So small and yet larger than the decisions, the guilt, the shame, and the regret. These words were a call to pause and appreciate myself as a whole person, a complex combination of traits both frustrating and endearing. At least I hope the latter. You are only human, often said to remind people not to be too hard on themselves, described alternatively as elevated apes or degenerate angels. Humankind balances between the two ends of life's tightrope. Too fearful of this midpoint, we often cling to one view or another, that we are fallen angels or animals in trousers. But we are, in fact, neither. Our place in the world is suspended upon this vulnerable spot. It is a difficult exhibition, but this acrobatic act displays our great potential. Some people strive to become better than we are. Others shirk any ethics not found in nature nor vindicated by science. But perhaps what is needed is not more angels nor more animals, but only humans. Someone who is complete only in their incompleteness. Coursing through time, do we feel unfinished, as if a masterstroke upon life's canvas was missing, only to feel perfect at those rare moments when we accept ourselves as imperfect? Or perhaps, as some artists argue, that mistakes and imperfections are where true beauty lies. Perhaps our brokenness is our grace. And sometimes in life we do feel broken. I would argue that in addition to this, a fundamental element of what makes us human is this knowledge of our brokenness. The Oracle of Delphi implores us to know thyself. And it is in our reflection where we learn of our mistakes and triumphs. It is here where we learn that life must be comprised of choices and sacrifice. Too often we fail to give credit to our better nature. At other times we fall foul of our folly. As I said, it's a balancing act, as so many elements in life become. I was reminded this week that the sweetness of life is dependent on knowing that we cannot do everything. And so the decisions we make, we must make with an awareness of what we will lose. This we may mourn. The conviction of our choices will embolden. The Unitarian faith may be seen as a microcosm of the world. One seeks the sacred in all life, and so services draw inspiration from many sources. The divinity of each person is affirmed, and so we seek to know one another authentically. What one encounters in the world, may they find in their faith. And seen this way, we might understand why the Unitarian practice abandons the creed, a verbal declaration. In an ever-evolving world that shifts between species, between climates, between empires and knowledge, it is important to remember that language, too, is temporary. And what bridges our theory to the world one day may be breached the next. Words that ring true for us may ring hollow for our children's children. Secondly, if we are perfect in our imperfection, complete in our incompleteness, how could we insist that the words that give meaning for us are ever useful for others? Compasses direct us in different paths towards the same source, for we reside across the globe. One vital trait is humility. To accept our limited understanding of the world's map, we defer to reason when we find for us a better path. A faith with doubt, which allows this unfinished mass of humans to progress through life. These two thoughts, that human language is ever-changing and human knowledge is always incomplete, form my belief in Unitarianism as a creedless faith. We cannot encapsulate the world in a few words, and were we able to, these words would gradually ebb from the shore of understanding. So we are not bound by creed. But what else might glue this community together? Another religious element might be ritual. Anglicans do not completely agree on finer points of the Trinity or the resurrection, but their communion is considered a shared expression We do light a chalice, and this is a practice done around the world. But there are churches in our fold which do not. Are they any less Unitarian? And were we one day to find our candle missing, which has nearly been the case recently, would our service that day fail to enlighten the soul? One element in our service is not the defining point of our faith. So ritual doesn't bind us. Disregarding these two traditional expressions of religious community, we might argue that the bond of our faith is deeper, it's more impenetrable, and thus more undefinable than we can express. And though I appreciate this sentiment, to fail to explore what binds us would be a failure of our creative inquiry. Unable to be defined does not mean unable to make the effort. We do not make a common profession of faith, but we often express our individual opinions and beliefs. So let us explore the bond within our religion. Words do not bind us. Ritual does not bind us, nor do politics, nor race, nor class, nor sexuality, nor nearly any other grouping. We seek inclusion. And here in this chapel and other Unitarian chapels, we're fond of quoting Rumi. Come, whoever you are. We seek inclusion, and that is the binding force for Unitarians. It's an agreement of mutual respect. Understanding our individual knowledge to be limited, we engage with others to pool our resources so that we may better understand our place within creation and the cosmos. Mutual respect. Actions that ensure the autonomy for people to explore their spiritual depths, an environment that opens us to Earth's and divinity's message. For without the love of each other, shown through compassion, our chapel will fail to be a welcoming place for spiritual exploration. In religious terms, this is a covenant, a mutual contract where both parties invest in their relationship. Covenants appear at specific points in the Bible: between Noah and God after the flood, between Abraham and God prior to the birth of Ishmael and Isaac, and between Moses and God as the laws are set down for the Israelites. It is spoken of later by the prophets, with both Jeremiah and Jesus speaking of new covenants when the previous have been broken. Covenants originated between individuals and tribes, but were eventually used in religious language to illustrate the relationship to God. Honor God rightly and God will protect you. This vertical agreement may appear naive to some, but for many, this expression that God will love them as they love God is the core of their religious belief. Individual to individual, tribe to tribe, and people to God. With Unitarians, primarily in the US, but here as well, this covenant speaks from core to core, the divine element of each bound in mutual respect. A covenant is different to a contract. One significant distinction is the flexibility of a covenant, its ability to carry on after a transgression. This is born from its power of forgiveness. Contracts have specific points and conditions of termination, and both parties can or will leave under certain circumstances. The covenant, however, seeks to persevere even when mistakes have been made. There is an acceptance of wrongdoing. This is not to ignore hurtful words or actions, but along with recognition may come renewal. Where a contract may signal an end, a covenant says, let us start again in love. Through time, we learn our relationships are never finished, but continually evolve and grow. With an awareness of this, may this growth be deeper and more fulfilling. In the words of Rumi, come, come, whoever you are, even if you have turned away 1,000 times, come, yet again come. Being human in this world necessarily implies a sense of lack or loss. Regrets are part of us. So too is the recognition of fulfillment. With our brokenness being a fundamental part of our nature, we need forgiveness. To maintain that community of respect, we must likewise forgive. And with this promise, we may better witness the world and better witness to it. From Francis David, we need not think alike to love alike. We need covenants more than creeds or rituals. Let us be grateful for our community, explorers who chart the unknown depths and terrain of their hearts, the divine, the world. We journey far away, but we remain always connected. In a world bound not by faith or practice, we must be glued by an agreement of mutual respect. Amen.
Amen.
A few notices before we sing our final hymn. You have on the back of your order of worship a listing of upcoming events for May and June. Next week we have Faith in Life, and also a recognition is it sort of a half marathon or a fun run. I think next the 22nd. There's something that stops traffic. So if you are coming in next week, either for the service or Faith in Life, or hopefully for both, do be aware of traffic disruptions, which begin now and carry on pretty much all through summer, as there's something every weekend just about. So that's the 22nd. On the 29th, we have, firstly on the 27th, our Friday lunchtime recital is at 1 p.m., featuring Patrick Hemmerle performing Galofsky's Java Suite. It's going to be absolutely fantastic, and I do encourage you all to join us. They're free, but we are grateful for donations which can assist, which go to the artists to recognize the time, talent, and energy that they've put into the performance. So that's Friday the 27th at 1 p.m. Then on the 29th, we are having a leaving do in gratitude for Ben Kewen, who is one of our lettings assistants, though not for long. He's been with us for a number of years, and he's been a delight and a grateful asset to the church. And he has, as many of you know, he is a very talented artist, and he is going to pursue that as a career, as sort of a full-time pursuit. So we do wish him many good lucks on his journey, and we'll keep in touch with him. So that's the 29th. Please join us for that. And then the only other upcoming event I'll mention is the week after that, the 5th of June, we have our flower communion, and you should have a leaflet in your order of worship, a flyer that you can take with you. I can print off more if you know a place that you might want to put them. The flower communion is a specific Unitarian service. It's been going on for about 100 years. It has its origins in Prague, at the Prague Unitarian Church, created by Norbert and Maya Čapek, and is just a beautiful service for those who've been here before. You bring a flower, which creates a common bouquet and represents the talents and uniqueness of yourself. And then at the end of the service, you are given a different flower, recognizing the gifts that you receive from your communities. So that's the 5th, and it's followed by a bring and share meal. I'll have a sign up sheet soon for people to be able to sign up for that. If you're in need of pastoral care, please write to minister@crossstreetchapel.org.uk or speak with me. And we're grateful for any donations which can assist the mission of our chapel. You can donate online at tinyurl.com/crossstreetdonate, or you can contact me about setting up a standing order. And if you're here in person, we have a retiring collection along with envelopes for gift aid. And finally, we do have as well, many of you will know, an online mailing list, so do sign up for that if you wish. You receive about 1 or 2 emails a week, 3 if it's a particularly busy week. But I try to not inundate your inboxes too much. Are there any announcements from the congregation? Let us then sing our final hymn in the Purple Book, number 167, There Is a Place I Call My Own. Hymn number 167. There is a place I call and it's and look beyond the side and treat the cloud like me. Like the of the tree, like gently on the. I wish that all my boy without a care would fly. But life is not a sky without a cloud, without relief. And I can never that in travel on when nothing time goes quickly on its way. Oh, we lost today. I cannot wait for skies of blue or dreams so long that life is through. So life's a song that I must sing, a gift of love I must share. And when I see that in you, my spirit's soul, I light up in the sky. Love has come out. For now I know that life can be, and now my heart is flying free. Thank you, Graham, for the music. Thank you, Joe, for the IT. And thank you, Sonia, for greeting and for these flowers. And do we have anyone to help with the copy? Thank you, Alvin, for the coffee. And thank you to all of you for creating and sharing worship today. We close with the words of W.E.B. Du Bois. The prayer of our souls is a petition for persistence, not for the one good deed or single thought, but deed on deed and thought on thought, until day calling unto day shall make a life worth living. Amen.
That's my German son. Right under your fantasy.